Hi, we're going to be reading Runt Chapter 13. A few days after Thinker's death, the Wolf family set off for a new home. It was past time for the move. Thinker's prolonged dying had kept them close to the den long after they ordinarily would have left. The pups were old enough now that they didn't need the warmth and protection of the den, and the family required a new hunting range. They set out at a gentle lope in their usual single file, carrying nothing with them but their warm fur, their powerful, graceful bodies. King, Silver, Biter, Hunter, Helper, followed by the pups, Leader, Runner, Sniffer, Runt. No one told Runt to follow at a slight distance, but he did. No one called him to close the gap either. King chose a new site on a brushy hillside. Nearby, a gurgling stream dropped to another placid lake. "They're here," the stream murmured to Runt's ears. "The wolf pups are here." "But where is Thinker?" the rippling lake asked. "Gone," Runt answered mournfully. "Thinker is gone." The other pups discovered a grassy indentation where they could curl together for warmth when the nights were cool. King chose the rise that gave the best overview of the surrounding area. Silver found a place near her mate. Biter settled to one side and just below them. The two yearlings stayed close too. Runt sought out the shade of a solitary maple at the far edge of the clearing and turned, trampling the grass to make himself a solitary bed. And so the summer progressed. The hunters went out and came back again. When they were successful, they brought food for the entire family, mostly deer, occasionally moose. When they weren't successful, everyone waited for the next hunt and hoped it would be better. Something important had changed since Runt's last adventure, however. The other pups played amongst themselves, seldom inviting Runt to join them. He couldn't tell whether they were afraid of him or disdainful. He knew only that while the humans had saved his life, they had also left their mark. His mother, of course, remained his mother, though she continued to show her affection by giving him a good wash. Runt wondered sometimes if he would ever smell right to her again. And his father? King seemed sad, abstracted. Sometimes he went off into the forest alone. What he did there, Runt couldn't guess. He never returned with food. Helper, apparently feeling sorry for the outcast, began to spend more time with Runt. He singled him out for play, teaching him new skills. Runt accepted his brother's attention gracefully. A large family of Canadian geese lived on the lake. When the adults molted, leaving them as flightless as their gangly young, Helper often signaled Runt to join him. Together they crept through the long grass until they were close enough to leap, sending the startled geese flapping their useless wings and braying into the lake. Helper and Runt always ended by splashing their paws in the shallows, rejoicing in their joke. Helper taught Runt to run in step behind him, to move fluidly and silently through the grass. He even taught Runt to scent a cow, moose with twin calves as much as 4 miles away. Still, Runt never again tried to follow when the hunters left on their search for food. Runt fed when the others did, jumping up to bump a hunter's mouth to beg the food brought back in their bellies. He joined his litter mates in games of tug-of-war with the bones and chunks of meat the hunters brought back too. Once he even helped Sniffer locate the haunch of a deer King had cached near the clearing against a hungrier time. For their transgression, their father disciplined them equally with bites on the tops of their muzzles. One day the pups discovered skunk, their noses twitching at the compelling and disgusting smell that hung around the waddling black and white creature. Runt was the only one with enough sense to stay back, proving his encounter with Porcupine hadn't been entirely in vain. But it gave little pleasure to avoid sharing his littermate's smelly fate. His good fortune seemed only to prove in another way how little he belonged. As the summer moved on, the pup's eyes changed from blue to a deep yellow of a mature wolf's. Their down, soft puppy fur was replaced by sleeker adult coats. And of course, they grew. Their already long legs, their big paws, and tall ears grew even faster than the rest until their body parts seemed awkwardly mismatched. Runt changed and grew with the other pups, but he remained the smallest. And he was still Runt. "Why," he asked Helper one day, "did my mother give me such a cruel name?" "Didn't you know?" he replied. "Our mother did not name you. Father did." "Father? His father named him Runt?" Raven, who had been listening in on the conversation, intruded with his own comment. "There is nothing wrong with being small. Why, I've seen a pair of wrens—" Yes, I know," Runt snapped. "They chased a crow across the sky," and he turned away. Autumn approached. Sumacs blazed red. The topmost branches of the maple tree Runt often rested beneath burst with color. The leaves of the aspen shivered on their slender stems, giving out a rattle as dry as breath. Bears ate their languorous way through the forest. Small red squirrels showered the ground with pine cones, as many as 100 in an hour, then scrambled down to gather them up and store against the coming winter. The reddish-brown coats of the deer dulled to bluish-gray. Some days the hunters were successful, and the pack lay in the cooling sunshine, gorged and contented. Sometimes they returned home with bellies still empty. It was after several unsuccessful hunts that Raven flew overhead. "Moose!" he called. "Moose!" He often flew in with reports of game nearby. When wolves eat, ravens eat too. The pups stopped their play. The adults woke from their napping or half-napping states, suddenly alert. King rose to his feet. "Where?" he asked. "This way," Raven croaked. "Very near." And he flew off across the stream into the forest. The wolves all stood watching the bird's departure, their ears pricked and their noses working. King tipped back his head and howled. Silver joined him, and the others gathered around, adding to the song. Excuse me. "Moose," the song said. "There are moose waiting for us out there." Their voices started low, then rose and rose, each on a different note, until the entire forest reverberated with their presence. Even the pups joined in, except for Runt. He had not howled once since he sung his way back through the forest from the human place. Raven flew back. "Don't sing," he scolded. "It's time for action. Let's go." "Come," King called, and to Runt's amazement, this time he looked directly at the pups. Runt's heart raced. Could his father possibly be calling the pups to join the hunt? Even them? "Come," King said again, and his meaning was clear. The pups were to go on their first hunt. Runt wagged his tail and looked at Helper, who wagged his tail too. "Now," Helper whispered, "you can use what I've taught you." Runt intended to do exactly that. He would prove himself to Helper. He would prove himself to his mother and to Biter, too. Especially, though, he would prove himself to the one who named him Father.